quick without a donkey. Dicks out. From Ohio to Zimbabwe. Dicks out. Dicks out for Harambe. Dicks out. Like a cocktail from Bill Cosby. Dicks out. Like a primate fucking zombie. Dicks out. He's like, damn, somebody shot me. Dicks out. Dicks out for Harambe.
With the hard stop. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Deviant Gentleman Podcast. My name is Shane Vitko, alongside my co-host, Mr. Uncle Tommy Vext.
What's up, everybody? How the fuck are you doing?
Fuck, man. We have a phenomenal guest in today, and I don't even know where to start with how to introduce this fella, but we have USMC, United States Marine Corps Combat Veteran, CEO and founder of Bravo Research Group, Executive Protection Lifestyle, Protect the Nation, author of Finding Meaning After the Military, and host of the Protector Podcast, Mr. Byron Rogers.
Boom, man. Wow. Thanks so much for that introduction. And yeah, man, I know I complicate it with all that stuff.
That's a good that's a tight resume.
Man, I had to.
You're a man of action, you know?
I had to hit him up and be like, so is the Protect the Nation, or is the lifestyle and the executive, what the fuck do you, how do I introduce you? So I did my best. I hope that I did you.
No, you killed it, man.
Justice.
Sometimes when they ask me, like, so what do you do? I'm like, how much time you got?
Yeah.
You know, I do whatever it takes. You know,
Well, so
to make an impact.
for any of our viewers and any of our listeners who are not familiar, how do you tell us, give us the breakdown.
Well, it really depends on the venue, man. So if my elevator pitch, if I'm talking to someone who might be within the private security industry, it's, I help high net worth. I set up security. I set up security strategies for high net worth individuals and corporations. If it's anything or anywhere else, it's, I help people learn how to protect themselves, because that's at the seat of everything I do. So, executive protection lifestyle, like that's a brand that's all about helping private security professionals do better and be better and serve better, restore more honor back to what we do. By helping people improve themselves. Protector Nation, it's all about helping civilians perform better and be able to protect themselves, be willing, capable, and prepared. So really, I'm a protector, and I'm doing everything I can to get that energy out into the world and multiply that ability.
And so in 2020, it's interesting because a lot of, even in LA, I think after the riots, a lot of my extremely liberal friends who are anti-gun went out. I mean, everybody went out and bought guns. Because the reality of the violence and the riots, and what do you say to people who are starting to see the Second Amendment differently, and being, what do you say for people who have never really been concerned with protecting themselves and their family in the climate of 2020, and how that's kind of changed American society?
To me, in so many ways, it's a beautiful thing, right? So being in the private security game, I've had clients that appreciate security, and I've had clients that don't appreciate security. Growing up with 5 sisters, I've been like, I got to get you to understand the importance of security and being aware of your surroundings. We've all, and trying to help them understand that reality before living or experiencing something that validates that reality is like a whole thing. Right. So a lot of my energy, and you guys will see this, we were talking in my social media posts, goes to helping civilians realize, I want to cause a little micro trauma with maybe a sharper video of some real world action. You know what I'm saying? That will hopefully cause you to start to be more aware of the reality that, you got some basic needs. You need food, water, shelter, but you need to be able to protect your stuff. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it might just be my stuff. You know what I'm saying? So.
And that's what I said about when I went through your Instagram. Every time we have a guest on, I like to start at the beginning. And, we had Emily on, I had to scroll through 3,000 posts. Mr. Byron, I had to scroll through 6,000.
Dude, I was impressed. I was like, you did what?
But when you start with somebody's thing of 5 likes to 20 likes to 50 likes to 100, 600, so on, and I get to see the progression. And I got to see your progression of who you became as a man, what what your purpose was to get through, and all these. You started off with so much inspirational stuff, and that's what you were sharing a lot, was a lot of inspirational quotes. And then I get to see, like I told you before, your training of the first time you started doing the tactical ranges, to getting certified, to where you're at now. And it's humbling growth, and it's like I said, I mean, I followed some of these guys that are insane. Like, you know, they don't even look, and it's bing, 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 hitting all
Yeah.
this shit, and it's like, damn, man. And yours, like in the beginning, was by the numbers,
Right.
stop, shoot. By the numbers, stop, shoot. And over time, you get to see. I feel like I wish more people put up the videos where they fall, the videos where they miss, not just the ones that this came out absolutely perfect, and here's me, I'm ready for any scenario. Are ya?
You do. It's the natural beauty versus the makeup beauty thing. It's like, nah, like natural beauty is I feel in some ways it's like it's you, it's superior. I love the imperfection is perfection kind of thing. So like on that, I'm sitting here and I'm getting ready to start posting my shooting videos, you know, I'm doing my thing. And there's a lot I could say about that because, you know, a lot of those motivational videos, I was banging those out and I was just like, I got something inside of me and I got to say it. I got to express it. I should express it somehow. I don't care if like 2 or 3 people just watch the video, but like, this is my responsibility to give, you know, what I have inside me. Right. But then with the shooting stuff, it's funny because, you know, I roll with a bunch of dudes and we're all gunslingers, right? And I'm like, I was like the worst dude in the crew, you know what I'm saying? So they're all looking at me.
That's for a public record. That is me.
Right,
I'm
yo.
like the sloppiest shot, bro.
Right?
Yeah.
No,
I
I
don't
d-
care though. Like, listen, you
Feel
don't
free
get
to hire me.
You don't get better if you don't practice. You know?
Yeah. And so I was just like, they're like, what are you doing? Like, why are you recording yourself? I'm like, yo, I'm going to post this. And they're like, how? It was horrible. You're the worst dude here. You can't post it. I'm like, my brand is never going to be about perfection. It's going to be about the pursuit of your potential. And I think that's relative to everybody.
It comes down to if you think you can do it better, then try it. Just like the the black the activist there who went and trained and ends up shooting them, and he did miserable, which is like
There was
I
the
posted. I
activist
threw
that
that down the other day.
the police brutality.
I
training,
thought that
right?
was that. I give the guy credit for at least saying, "Hey, I'll go give it a shot,"
That- I
and
give
then
him respect
seeing
for
it
that.
and then going like, "Wow, man, you're right." Like that split second of what do I do? I'm shooting it, and it's like, well, that's not what you're supposed to do.
Most people,
Right? Yeah.
It's
Right?
it's interesting how
Yeah.
most people who are so outspoken and so hyper critical of law enforcement have never been in life and death situations.
Or
Right,
shot a
yeah.
BB
So-
gun.
Yeah, and it's like literally, it happens that fast.
100%.
You know? And so people are just kind of like, they see from the outside and they just assume, or it's like, you know, I get a lot of people who, I've been pretty vocal about, you know, mandatory vaccinations and stuff like that aren't tested. And I posted a video yesterday of a woman in England who was complaining that in England, the
Kid came home.
kid came home and they were giving the kids vaccines without parental consent. And, you know, and I got all these parents, you know, these moms who are like, oh, I would kill someone if that was, I'm like, I'm like, you
Would
wouldn't,
you though?
you would, I'm like, listen, like, you don't, I'm like,
What a lot of people
Margaret,
mean by
I'm
that
pretty
is this.
sure.
Yeah, I would
I'm
just.
pretty sure. Yeah, you would just give them a piece of your mind. I'm
Right,
like,
yeah.
but you know, it's like that everyone always throws themselves. They project themselves into situations, whether it's good or bad. And I would do this, and I'm like, you don't know what you would do
You have no idea.
until that happens.
Yeah.
I can only talk about what I know that I've experienced and how I've reacted and responded in those situations. And it's a very interesting thing that the internet age has sort of evaporated that part of critical thinking and observation of like, okay, what would I do in this situation? You just go to responding. There's just this kind of Twitter
Shortcut.
comment shortcut, like the first immediate response is that's my stance without actually any contemplation or any critical thinking, you know.
Before we get off the things about what you said about you post this stuff to kind of microdose trauma, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'm curious, where do you think the balance is between being completely naive to this and like, cause like, you know, I sent one of those to my fiance, I sent one to people where it's like,
Heck yeah.
you know, they go like, oh my God. And it's like, oh my
Yeah,
God,
oh
this
my
could happen. Now that doesn't mean leave the house like a goddamn Navy SEAL every
Right,
day
right.
and be on a lookout. But so I guess how do you find the balance between,
I just imagine your girlfriend coming out of the house like,
bro, you should
just
see,
strapped,
dude,
ready to
get
I
down.
put her
That's
through
what's up.
scenarios. I put her through
know,
real
like,
life
yeah,
scenarios.
Do
And I
it.
make her
A good man does. I
because
love
it's
it.
like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, I'm not trying to scare you, but I need you to be realistic of when you're alone and you go to the supermarket by yourself.
Right.
Or grocery store, whatever they call it here. But here's the reality is like, go to the beach, have fun, enjoy the day. It's life, enjoy life. But also be aware. Be a little bit more aware of your surroundings, you know?
Yeah.
If you notice dog shit on the ground, notice the guy that's standing down the street that looks a little out of place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
where do you think the balance is, or so do you think that helps? What you're doing is helping someone realize, oh shit, this could happen,
Yeah.
and maybe I should take some steps towards doing something.
Yeah, I think we all have the tools inside of us naturally and organically. I think based on it, like experiential learning from our environment, the tools that are relevant get used and implemented more often, and the tools that are irrelevant kind of get just like dumbed down. So like if you live, your whole life in Orange County, California, and nothing ever happens, and you just don't really find it as a relevant skill to have situational awareness and think of yourself as being hunted, which you are for a number of different reasons, just for being in that zip code, depending on who you are, right? But so what I try to do is give that little micro trauma a glimpse into reality. Like, this isn't a movie. There's a realistic outcome that happened. This person was victimized, and this is how horrible reality can get in a second, so that person can now start to like write that software that's like, this could actually happen. And hopefully when they're sitting in their car on their little cell phone in a parking garage by themselves, they'll think back to that one video, and they'll be like, their hair will stand up and be like, you know what? Maybe I should just move. Because I know, as a big brother and a father and a husband, I can tell people like, hey, you know what? You really need to pay attention more. You really need to look around more. But when they see it and they experience it and they're like, yo, that video you sent yesterday was ridiculous. You know what I mean?
How often do you get, yeah, but that's Harlem, that'll never happen here?
Not, I don't get that very often.
I think that's an older way. I think that might be a more old school way of viewing it, because we've seen how,
because it's like I've been posting them from like all kinds of
and,
and that's what I appreciate.
And
Is
that
it's not
kind of
just
criminality is no longer in a ghetto jurisdiction.
It's not just
anymore.
concentrated. Like
and it's not just coming from black. It's not just coming from white. It's not just coming from Hispanic.
It's always been that way. It's just the way that the media used to portray African Americans. It's like we're all criminals and we're all stealing, and now we're all
super
victims.
criminals.
And I'm like, sick.
Super predators.
We're
really
first we're super
threatened
predators.
right
now we're an endangered species.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
Yo, can niggas just talk
Can we
for
just
ourselves?
like can I just have my own stuff? Like, I just be Byron? Is that okay with everybody? Yeah.
But it's crazy. Like I was, because I'm really up on the trafficking stuff, and I post a lot of 50% of my audience are female, and I posted several videos of people who are doing like what you're doing, talking about the zip ties on cars. Like a lot of people, for anyone who doesn't know this, like if you're a woman and you're alone and you come back to your car at the grocery store or the mall or and there's a zip tie on your door, get the fuck out of there. Get the fuck out of there, because what happens is the abductors, they scout in the parking lot single women, and they put the zip ties on the cars of the women who are alone and look vulnerable, and then another person in a van will come around. So they'll just come around and they'll snatch you up, and that's how they get.
and then
you're
gone.
You'll be on the first thing smoking a fucking Kazakhstan.
But back to
Kazakhstan, is that a real place?
Yeah.
Is that where you're from?
No. Isn't that's where Borat's
yeah.
Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
With a little,
he also called
squiggly in there.
Hermborough.
Like I'm a fucking geography major. My bad.
Well, on that same thing you were
Weren't
saying.
you stationed there?
No.
On that same thing you were saying, man. The awareness, I think, it shouldn't be a paranoia. It shouldn't be impairing to your life, but you should understand it in the way that it can help you live a safer and more higher quality life. So especially when I first got back from my deployment and I was a little bit like dialed up and would deal a little bit more with hypervigilance, right?
Oh, yeah.
You go into a place and, my lady just knew, like, give him about 4 minutes. Yeah, I mean, he's gonna sit here. I'm gonna sit here.
A little bit
And especially doing executive protection now, I got to make it look good. I got to make sure no one else is detecting the fact that I'm taking in a lot of information. But the principle is, once I have a plan, I feel more secure.
Right.
And when I know I'm using shortcuts to protect myself, I feel better and stronger and more secure. So it's really just supposed to spark you to think, okay, cool. These are things that are dangerous. I don't do these things. I sit this way. I move this way. I'm aware of somebody if they're getting tactical positioning on me, and
well, I think
you
with
find
the
shortcuts that
more
help you.
awareness and the more training you have, the less fear there is behind a situation happening, because I'm prepared for this.
Right. And the common misconception is, you just live in fear all the time
Yeah.
because you're always being
Like
proactive.
that's the
It's
black
like,
and
nah,
white. You
bro,
either
like,
live in fear all the time, or you're outside looking like a fucking, you're in SWAT with all the
Yeah.
shit and everything. It's like those are two
you don't
super
understand
drastic
the
ends of
space.
of
Yeah.
of the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, I think preparation is the equivalent of speaking softly and carrying a big stick.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
100%.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool.
Well, it's,
Like you have that confidence.
Yeah.
Because you're like, if shit goes down, you're prepared.
Right.
And that's okay. It's gonna be somebody else's mistake if they roll up on you.
If they make you
are gonna
have
make
to.
a bad decision, and you're
Right.
like, it's not really, and then you just kind of roll.
And that's the dude you got to watch out for, bro. The dude the difference between strength and power. Yeah, I mean, the difference between force and power. Force needs to push against something. It's got something that it needs to work with. You're like trying when it's force. When it's power, you're grounded in yourself. You're like a closed loop. And it's like, I know something.
Let me ask you guys both this, is that because I feel like when chaos arises or a chaotic situation, whether it's somebody's dead, something's going on, it's almost like I get calmer and things slow down and I'm able to assess the situation. But do you
Right.
think that you need to have experienced some level of trauma for you to gain that insight?
Man, that's a great question. I have the same I have the same exact response. I know that I in the Marine Corps was taught that, it was like, yo, calm down, make decisions, boom, 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 boom. But I wouldn't say that's the first place I got it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's just, I know my parents have that mindset too. When I was growing up with one of them at a time, both of them are kind of like that. I don't know. I mean, I think you can be born with it, and I think you can learn it.
What do you? I mean, you don't have military training, but you're very much that
No,
way. So,
I mean, my situational awareness comes from, I didn't,
Experience,
yeah, and
but
like
traumatic
yeah,
experience. No?
I didn't.
Trauma's
I wasn't,
good, man.
I wasn't in
It's
a
healthy.
combat zone, but you have to understand.
But in a
like,
way, you
I,
are.
Well,
you
I
know?
grew up like the first time I got stabbed, I was 14 years old. The first time I got robbed at gunpoint, I was 15 years old. When I was 19, I was jumped by a gang, ran over with a car, held down at gunpoint, had my legs almost broken with baseball bats.
Yeah.
I've seen people murdered. Like, so these are the things that, like, I don't necessarily think that it's not like teaching. It's not the same as militarized instructions and preparation, as it's a desensitization and the post-traumatic stress that comes as a result of it. When the dial gets turned up and it gets real nuts, I get that weird like
Baseline.
I can't even hear. It's like a high frequency. It's like, and I'm just like, I go into like a very hyper focused state of
Zen.
whatever is next. Yeah, but it's just like whatever is next.
But I think that's what people confuse with I wasn't in a combat zone, whereas me, I was in a combat zone when I was 6, different from the military, but coming home to survive my old man daily was a fucking task.
Your brain's reacting the same way to that trash
yeah,
as
and
it
when
is
you're-
to other
So now
stuff we went
fast
through.
forward that into this, and then
You're
the
more
military, then
susceptible.
prison, then
Yeah.
all these things
Yeah.
where it's like, but I'm curious to know how just the average person who's, I feel like everybody has some level of trauma, but the average person who's just 35 right now,
Yeah.
never really had guns, never really had an issue, but goes, you know what? Due to the state of what's going on right now, I want to learn some of this situational awareness and everything.
Right.
Do we have an edge on them because of what we've been through, or do they stand to be as dialed in as we would be?
No, 100% we have an edge. It's like water that it's like you're used to getting in this water. You know what I mean? Like, you're inoculated to the stress, you're inoculated to trauma. One of the things I tell young men, I'm like, go to an MMA, go get punched in the face. Like,
Yes.
go to Toastmasters and get
Yeah,
in front
that's
of
the
people.
craziest
Like,
thing.
Definitely get
you
punched in the face.
need trauma, homie.
So-
Like,
some
it's-
of watching some of the riot stuff, and like
Yeah.
people are going crazy,
Yeah.
and then as soon as something happens,
actually happens.
they scream. They are like
Yeah,
high
yeah.
pitch men screaming like,
Like,
I'm
you're
like,
all
what
women
the-
and children,
like,
all of you.
What,
You know what it- you know what it-
note is
yeah.
that? I'm like, what?
You know what
note-
it reminds me of?
frequency is
I
that?
You're
got-
not going
I
to
got-
Valhalla, bro.
I got a 10-week-old puppy right now in a 4-year-old pit, and the 10-week-old puppy is biting at him, and the pit takes it and takes it and takes it,
Yeah.
and finally he goes and throws him, and the dog goes and makes the loudest screeching noise, and I go,
Yeah.
hey man, that ain't how it works. You've been chewing on his face for the past 10 minutes. Now that he reacted, now you want to let
Now
this
it's-
high
yeah.
pitch go? You're fine.
Yeah. Now
You're
you want
fine.
to play that game? These are the results, man. But I think for sure that stress inoculation through experiential information and evidence, and you've seen that situational awareness and these more combative skills are important. It's been validated through your reality, and that's the the strongest way to learn something deeply is when it's validated through your reality.
Now, what's your advice to somebody right now going, you know what, where do I start in the way of I want to start to learn how to protect myself? Where does somebody start with that?
So a lot of people think it has everything to do with hard skills. It has so much more to do with soft skills. So the way you see the world, you know, being able to see through the matrix of your reality and be like, this is danger, avoiding that stuff, understanding how to behavioral profile people, knowing like who's actually dangerous and who you think looks like a gangster because of some avatar in your head, or, you know what I mean? Like really being able to understand these things and how to move and all that. So what I've done, you know, not to my own horn or anything like that, but what I did was I put together the Protector Symposium, which is all about soft skills, mindset. It's all about learning from guys who are at the top of the game, who've had experience with cartels, who teach FBI, you know, behavioral profiling, all that type of stuff. And so what I would tell them, hey, start learning the soft skills. Check out the Protector Symposium or Protector Nation. Learn from people who have done it, that are trying to strengthen the most important muscle in your body or your brain. And then I would say start looking at hard skills. And there is a lot to say for the intelligence that comes from getting slammed and getting hammered, and get into some physical discipline. Because I believe physical martial art or discipline, because I do believe that a lot of the development that's going to have to come out of you and confidence just to be able to navigate a dangerous situation comes from the physical confidence that you get from knowing that you're not going to die when you get punched in the face, from having someone slam you, breathe on you, sweat on you, rough you up.
Ew,
a little
yucky.
bit. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
I
boy,
also
girl,
don't want
whatever,
to glance
you
over
know?
the fact that you are a double psychology major with a master's in forensic psychology.
Master's in counseling psychology, minor in forensic psychology.
Nonetheless, I mean, that's,
I do
you
my
know,
best,
that's,
man.
I think, you know, there's so many different things of get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Let somebody get dirty.
Get
maybe
slammed,
maybe
man.
be a waitress or a waiter for a month.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
You know,
That'll traumatize anybody.
You know?
Most of the people in Hollywood, they've had that job.
and
Yeah.
Learn some level of cognitive behavioral therapy,
Well-
some kind of, you know, psychology, like to learn people's behaviors.
Social
Because like
dynamics.
when my girl or someone goes like, how did you know
Yeah.
that this person? And I'm like, I just, how do you not read? To me, it seems like
You're
how
seeing
does
through the matrix.
not
She's
everyone
seeing
see
ones and
that?
zeros, right?
I
We're
see
gonna
that
see
all
it.
the time. Yeah, it's like I've always had that. You
Like
know?
if you get that
yeah,
feeling,
yeah.
It's game time. Like,
Sums up.
Sums up. Like I don't
Sums up.
never not
Doesn't
listen to
lie.
that feeling. One of the things that Yosef, one of the guys that is one of our instructors on that platform, he's like, one of the biggest mistakes civilians make is they assign an intent. So they see something weird and they're like, oh, that's weird. Then they're like, oh, he's probably just taking out the garbage.
benefit of
And
the
they
doubt.
have like a protection, inner psychic protection reflex that has to keep them in their little homeostasis of like, life is good.
Safety, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then that's
the
when they get
illusion of
hit in the back
safety.
of the head with with an aluminum pipe, and chaos shows up and it's like, what's up? You know? So
I mean,
you know.
I have a little sister too, and having
Yeah.
sisters, you're like, my radar for predatory men is so acute.
sensitive, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like, you know, I've been in
salmon
every
shorts and
relationship.
flip flops.
Yeah.
In every relationship I've been in, when I'm like getting introduced to new people, I'm like, all right.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm like, that's the date rape guy.
Yeah.
Because there's so many of them.
Just
Right.
smell. He just
Yeah.
smells
Well,
you
like
can feel it.
He
It's just-
smells like GHB.
Yeah, there's like the friend
Right.
zone date rape guy, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's like the psychological saboteur guy, and you're just like, dude, like, and then they all like, and with women too. There's always, I've had guys who are like, I meet their girlfriend, I'm like, no.
No. It's
I'm
big
like,
with the great.
wait for it. And
Yeah,
I've
exactly.
had those girlfriends, and nobody tells me. Fucking piece of shit.
Because all the other guys are hunters too, and they can smell
Yeah.
it. All of us can smell it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
I
that-
remember thinking to myself, what's he doing with this fucking hyena right now? Doesn't he know hyenas bite?
You know?
They always look good on the outside.
Oh, man.
So
Yeah,
I want to
that's
know,
awesome.
tell me about your near-death experience at 19.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm sitting in Iraq, and we're heading down the road.
How old were you when you
and,
deployed? 19?
Yeah, 19. I turned 18 in boot camp, in Marine Corps boot camp.
And you deployed to Iraq what year?
Al Anbar province. Let's see, it had to have been 2019. I'm sorry, 9 because I got in an 8.
I was gonna say
Right?
2019.
Yeah, man, I got
Jesus
TBIs
Christ,
and
you just
stuff,
got back?
bro.
Yeah.
Right? Boom. So, yeah, man. So, boom, turned 18, did the boot camp thing. I'm sitting here on a convoy, and
Infantry, I might add.
infantry,
Cool.
0351, 31, Lima Company Weapons Platoon, right? And I'm sitting here, and my doc's like, "Hey, man, you might want to sit back. Something might happen today. I got a funny feeling. The funny feeling thing, it's a real thing." I'm
It
like,
ain't that funny either.
yeah, you just know something's wrong, And it was like that before we got into combative situations. Before we had to fight, you would just get this feeling. You turn down the street, there's no one there, and you're like, like it's about
Why is
to
there
get
just a
weird.
teddy bear in the street?
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
weird.
Or you see a car, and you're like, that's that car,
Yeah.
and then all
There's
of a
no
sudden they
wheels
turn
on
and
it.
start driving at you, So yeah, we just kind of were a little shook up. I came up with some song that I'm like singing some song, and my buddy Foster, who had been in a number of IEDs, and I was in a handful of IEDs, but this one rocked me, man. My buddy Foster comes over the radio and he's like, "Hey, Silverback," which is my call sign. You know what I'm saying? In the military, there's no such thing as
Racism's welcome.
We make fun of everybody. Everybody gets some, right? So they're
here
like,
you were all equally worthless.
yeah, exactly. So he's like, "Silverback, I got a bad feeling. I need to stop." Second he stopped, I'm like, "Roger that, dude. Do what you gotta do." He rolls to a stop, and I'm all of a sudden in this like kind of really chill environment. Like it was just kind of like a black room. I had no idea where I was at, and I was like really at peace and really chill. And I was just like, kind of just my same jovial self. And then I started to kind of be like, "Hey, where am I?" And then I started to look around, and I was like, "This is weird." And I remember knowing that I could command my thoughts, and I was like, what was I thinking? Like, what was the last thing I was thinking? I just remember asking that question, and I saw like one of those green cursors on a, those old like MS-DOS, blink, blink, blink.
Like the Apple IIe.
Yeah, man, it was just like blink, blink, blink. Why is this water cooler trying to come up my, my butt? And I'm sitting here like, what does that mean? And I was like, what? Why would I be asking that question? And then I remembered,
shit.
like, oh, I was sitting on a water cooler in the back of the 7-ton, and then I was like, oh, I was in Iraq, and I was on a mission in Iraq, and then all of a sudden, I was like the deepest sorrow I've ever experienced in my entire life. The sorrow so deep it still fuels me to do half the stuff I do, because I ain't gonna feel this way the next time I'm dying. And I was like, boom, and it just hit me in the stomach, and I just remember being like, oh my gosh, like I died. I'm a pile of guts on the floor in Iraq. So 60 some odd pounds of explosives had just gone off underneath me, directly underneath me. Like, so my main man would roll into a stop and put a drum of homemade explosives directly underneath me. And I just remember feeling the deepest sorrow I've ever felt. And I started to see family members, and I started feeling like I was seeing them where they were and what they were doing. I don't know if I was or wasn't. I just remember being like apologizing, like, so when I was getting in the Marine Corps, my dad dangled me off the balcony of a hotel when he came to see me graduate from high school, and he was just like, "Yo," he just pauses and he's like, "Why are you not scared?" And I was like, "Well, because you're either gonna drop me off the balcony or I'm going to the Marine Corps." And he was like, "Don't die."
So,
and it was the
and-
last thing he told me was like, "Don't die."
What were your injuries from that?
I had a concussion. I was out for a while, and fractured elbow, and
Lucky.
I made it out, man. I made it out by the grace of God, Basically ended up, I saw my buddy next to me looking at my body. I couldn't look at my body, but I was looking at my buddy, and I knew I was underneath the truck. And, I basically ended up praying, and by the grace of God, came back, got another chance. And then that's kind of that Phoenix moment for me, because it's like, and it was like some touch by an angel. It got it got crazier, but for me, it was like that Phoenix moment of being like, I am, I'm 19, and I'm like, I haven't even gone ham yet. Like my life, I haven't even been deliberate yet. And I was like, I will never feel this sorrow again. So I live my life every single day to where if I have to die over something I believe in or whatever it is, I'm fine with it. And so that's kind of my wake up in the morning, go to bed, like, I could die today. And I went ham. So, whoever judges me, I'm just going to look them in the eyes and be like, Father, I did the best I could.
That's an interesting thing, like, because I'm a near-death experience person too,
Heck yeah.
And so is Zoltan. I
Yeah.
don't know if you know that.
Really? I
He's
didn't
never
know
told
that.
you the story. Yeah, there is a heightened acuity and a heightened awareness and a purpose when you come back from being on the other side.
Yeah.
It sounds like there is this common thread with everyone I talk to who has been pronounced dead and been brought
That's
back.
interesting.
Yeah, and I didn't go
'Cause
to
it is
I didn't
its
go to a dark
perspective.
place. I went to
Yeah.
a light place.
Interesting.
And there were people there. There were
Yeah.
entities there
Wow.
that I've known for thousands of years. I had like a whole realization that we're like reincarnated, and
Yeah.
and that was my experience. And then
Yeah.
I never knew anything about NDEs, and then I started to look it up, and then there's a debate on whether that is a manifestation of of the pineal gland and DMT being released to give you a peaceful transition out of this life, or if there is a multi-dimensional reality that part of us exists in a fifth dimensional or four-dimensional reality,
Right.
and so it's just been I actually was on the phone with my attorney yesterday, and we become really good friends over the past 10 years, and he's my business attorney, and I was explaining him this story. So it's like, it's very strange that you're telling this story, and he's like, I don't understand like why it has to be this way. And I'm like, dude, it's life or death. I'm like, life is a limited time offer.
Right.
And like, we get so wrapped up in feelings,
Yeah.
right? Feelings are not facts, and we learn in recovery. And most people in the outside world don't understand. Like, yeah, sure, having your feelings validated is great, but it's not, it's not do or die. It's not as important as people place emphasis on when it comes to when I die, right? The next time I die, whenever that is, like, I came back because I wasn't done. I had that, like, I could control my thoughts, and I was like, oh shit, I'm not done. And then I fell.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I fell back, fell back
into your body? Or?
Yeah, it was crazy. And I was in the hospital. And so, I tell people who, when I talk about this stuff, it's like, dude, like, life is a limited time offer, and life is an occasion. And every moment that when we wake up every day, we have an opportunity to rise to that occasion.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is you made a post the other day about what makes you special. Why do you think you deserve a fourth place trophy? Which is this, running joke that I use all the time. Like, okay, everyone gets a fourth place because really, like you said, you're one of how many sperms that made it.
Yeah.
We're on a rock.
We hit
move,
so
and
many
this,
lotteries getting here.
Just
like so many lotteries.
Opening your eyes
we
is a
already
lottery.
won.
But okay, cool. We've established that. What are you doing?
Now what?
Now, what are you going to do to be special today? You going to sit home and eat ice cream and play on the fucking computer all day? Or are you going to take life and and the reason I identify with that for so much is because I stayed in such a darkness. Tommy knows that darkness of addiction and anger and resentment and hatred and just in such a dark corner of this world for so long that now that I'm out of it, like, I just go like, I hate to be like, man, I wish I had known this sooner because it was my path. My path meant for me that I had to go through these struggles for as long as I did. But now being able to come on the other side of it is like every day is such an opportunity.
It's such a beautiful thing.
I get to take chances with excellent opportunities with great human beings. And maybe I'll be good. Maybe I'll be shit. Maybe somebody doesn't like it. Maybe somebody does. But all I know is moving forward, I'm curious to know, like, I know Tommy and I get tons of messages about thank you for what you do, and thank you for your message, and you really helped me with this. And I'm assuming that a lot of people probably reach out to you too, as far as, thank you for putting this out there. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you. I feel like when guys like us talk about feelings and love and compassion and this stuff, and that it's okay, and guess what? Still know how to shoot a gun.
Yeah.
Still know how
still
to
a
fight.
man.
Still,
Yeah.
we
and I'm even
been-
more of a man because I think actual masculinity, you got to be able to be vulnerable. Like, there's a few things you guys hit on. It's like there is a perspective that comes from trauma that's ultra valuable, and especially the near-death thing. I wish I could communicate that to people. Like, I wish I could be like, yo, you're going to die in like 10
I don't like
minutes.
being left
like,
out.
Time's
One
gonna
of you
be,
guys kill me.
You know what I mean? No, I'm not. Right. And then, the other things that you guys were hitting on, man, like I guess for the masculinity thing, man, in my opinion, vulnerability is like, that's strength, So it's like, dude, if I can just sit here and suck at shooting in front of you guys until I get good at it, or if I can sit here and just be like, yo, this is what I struggle with, or hey, you know, what you said really actually upset me, and this is why, you know what I mean? Like, that's actually like, that's the real strength. And I think that resonates with people so much more than like, oh, look at me, I'm perfect. I did all my makeup before I got on my Instagram today. Yeah.
And I think
So
it gives you power both ways. Like if I go shoot and I'm shitty
Yeah.
and Tommy's there and he's great and he's like, you suck, right? That makes me go like, fuck, man. And if I get through that without a reaction, that's giving me power. Now, I also got my buddies that are like, hey, man, glad you came out. Good thing you worked through it. Here's another man encouraging me, right? Both sides are giving me power instead of just focusing on the one and shutting it down and then worrying about, should I post it? Should I this? Like,
And I think it's a perspective issue. I think people get a little short-sighted. It's like, my results aren't me. Like, this is my, like, kind of godship, you know what I mean, experience. So, like,
people
maybe I
get
suck
attached
today.
to like it's
That
like
one outcome, like, it's,
and
like it defines
I see this
them, you know
happen
what I'm saying?
with musicians. They're like attached to their songs or their band or their this or actors. Like your social status is not who you are.
No.
It's absolutely nothing. And that's one of the reasons why I'm the most difficult person to be wrangled and controlled.
Yeah.
Because there is a wrangling and controlling going on within the industry of all entertainment industries, because there's a script. And it's just like, I'm like, you take it all away. I don't care.
No, and
like,
that's the guy,
I'm
man.
fine.
That's the dangerous guy. That's who I. Like one of the things that kills me when I hear it when someone's popping shots at me on like social media and they're like, you're just trying to please, you know, these people or this demographic or da da. And I'm like, homie,
that's
you
a deflection.
don't know. Yeah, they're
But
projecting.
Only
I'm like, but if
a
you only
fake
knew me,
person could conceive of that as being a possible way of living.
Yeah, because it's not living.
Yeah, I'm like, I like, I'm one of those people. I'm just like, it is what it is.
Yeah,
like, and
and
that's it. It's just the truth is absolution.
Yeah.
And it's not like my truth
No,
or like your
homie,
truth.
yeah.
It's just like third party perspective. I'm
Right.
like, hey, is this a table? You're like, no, it's a cow. I'm like, hey, what is this? You're like, table. I'm like, table.
Done.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
And my feelings
it.
are irrelevant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, I'm seeking the truth. And if I'm wrong, I'll sit here and be like, yo, you know what? I think I my bad. Looks like you guys are right, and I'm good with it. Yeah, I mean, like, and that.
Well,
I
have a question for both of you guys.
Send it.
Okay, this is my question. Toxic masculinity. Is it real? Is it third wave feminist propaganda?
Right.
Is it what and if it is propaganda, what does the purpose serve of attempting to emasculate a nation? What is is it real? And if it is propaganda, what is its purpose?
Yeah.
Go.
You want to jump into it? You want me to? Okay. So, in my opinion, I think
I go through this every day, so I'm prepared.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Good to go. So, hey, I think it is real. There is a such thing as a toxic version of everything, right? However, I think that though that reality is being leveraged in order to kind of not dumb down, but to be destructive to what I believe is healthy masculinity. I think some of it's very deliberate, and I think, no, there's a lot of it that's deliberate, and then there's a fallout. So, case in point, I'm going through my master's degree. I'm sitting there, and we have a course on toxic masculinity, right? Now, I'm kind of old school in my relationship in the way I run things. So, like, you know, I'd be bringing these big, like, illustrious dinners to my night courses, and everyone's like, who makes those dinners? And I'm like, my wife makes these dinners, you know what I'm saying? And she loves it, and she's happy, and I take care of her, and this was the arrangement, and she's good with that.
We
And
signed
they're all
up
like,
for it.
right, yeah, and after a while, I like end up winning the whole class over because they're like, man, like, this is awesome that you have that, and they, you know, people. Long story short, I'm sitting here. We have a class on toxic masculinity. I raise my hand, and I'm like, you know what you're talking about and how masculinity is toxic. So I was like, everything you're talking about is negative. What I find to be troubling is that the line between toxic masculinity and masculinity in general is too diffuse right now in this classroom. And so I believe that it's causing people not to be able to distinguish between what's actually toxic and what's actually healthy.
So for our listeners who may be interested, how do you define toxic masculinity?
I think toxic masculinity kicks off once the ego is out of balance inside of a male, and which definitely means insecurity is really one of the main drivers of that personality. And healthy masculinity has to do with the ego being healthy, because you need that. Otherwise, you ain't going to be a man. You're going to get ran over. You're going to run around saying things to me like happy wife, happy life. And you're just going to end up...
You don't say that to your friends. You say that to your chick, or you say
always.
it to people in front of her.
Yeah,
But I think
right.
everybody needs an ego. It's just how do you deflate it?
How do you keep it
Just
healthy?
deflate it.
Well,
You don't
and
want to
right
have no
sized.
ego at all. You just keep it deflated.
yeah.
Don't have it way up here.
Right.
The thing that I think with toxic masculinity comes from negative core beliefs, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm young and I believe that if you play tennis or soccer, you're a faggot or a pussy, okay, I guess I'm not doing that. If you are in the math class and like computers and you're a nerd, don't do that. Don't join the band. Don't do any of these things. So I am being taught that the only way that I am a man is if I play hockey, spit on the ground, say fuck a lot, punch people in the face,
Right.
Don't go to school, smoke weed, smoke cigarettes.
Be a
all
caveman.
all these things that I am taught are negative behaviors.
Right.
So I had to learn, how do I learn more healthy behaviors? I'll be honest with you, I was mortified that if I started crying and got vulnerable when I got sober, I was going to lose my edge.
Right.
People were going to pick on me, right? Because here's my fear of my childhood trauma,
'cause
that
that's what
I'm
we're taught,
insecure and I'm less than, because if I start crying now or tell people that I want to go play tennis on the weekend, what are they going to think? I'm a rich kid or that I'm a pussy? I got to be
Wait,
tough.
do you actually play tennis?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm
man.
terrible at tennis.
I mean, like,
I
we were
tried it
cool. We were
once,
having
yeah.
a good conversation. Now this guy plays
but
tennis.
I'm like,
but
yo, we gotta get out of here, bro.
I really think that
No.
a lot of guys, especially military, law enforcement, where it's these like super alpha, if you will, job titles, MMA, whatever it is, where it's perceived as this warrior, that if you start to get vulnerable and deal with things and process and cry and have emotions, that you're gonna lose your edge. People are gonna think less of you, and that you're just gonna need personal security for the rest of your life, and it's not true.
Yeah, no, it isn't true, and that's 100% valid.
But still get personal security.
But the other thing I think that I find a lot more guys, and I'm like, he's not healthy, is when they're allowing external forces. They have an external locus of control. They're allowing external forces to define their masculinity.
And I think that's what
their
you said
stuff.
about the propaganda,
saying?
like where we say
Like,
some woman is not going to tell
Tell
me what it
me.
means to be a man, because
And
I'm
I've-
the same way. My girl,
Yeah.
if she doesn't make me dinner, gets pissed
Yeah.
that I didn't ask. Why? What do you mean you went out to eat with Tommy and Byron? I'm going to make you dinner. And I'm
Right,
like, babe,
yeah,
you
like-
don't have to make dinner. It's cool. And she's like, no, you're not understanding.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to do this. It's therapeutic for me. I want
This
to
is
cook for
part
my
of the
man.
thing,
What am
yeah.
I going to do? Go, babe, it's not 1930. Let's both do it together. I go, fucking A, make me some
No,
food.
and as a man,
And then I say, thank you.
yeah.
Well, I think couples have to
figure
individually
out what works.
define what works for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And it's like if
100%.
I know couples where the guy's taking the girl's last name. That's never going to be my
Never
story.
gonna be. But hey,
But if you're
if
happy,
it works
cool,
for
man.
you, you do
Now,
it.
is there a form of like toxic masculinity that's like the inversion, like soy boy masculinity, like? Because I've watched this on the Joe Rogan
Soy boy
podcast. Well, yeah, there are these guys who are, like I said, how I'm hypersensitive to male predators.
Yeah.
It's a new version of male predators who basically they don't have a chance in the jungle to compete
With
to
apex dudes.
procreate with apex females.
Yeah.
So what they do is they psychologically move in by assimilating to what these like hyper feminist belief systems, and that's how they earn the right to continue to procreate. And it's
like the friend zone 2020. Like it's like
Yeah, but
an hyper evolved aggressive species of friend zone.
yeah,
It's
it's
like
like
those,
really-
they're like
it's so
those
bizarre.
they're like those aggravating monkeys in the trees,
Yeah.
where all the lines and everything on the bottom, and they come down and fucking whack you in the head,
and then
you jump back up in the
geez,
tree,
man,
and you're like,
that's a really interesting like little social adaptation that we're seeing for sure. But yeah, one of the things I was gonna say too is like in order to be a man, like you're like a stake in the ground that a tribe or something needs to be able to like build itself off of. Like you got to be able to look other people, other men, your girl in the face and be like, no, and this is why, because and the way I work anyway is this is all my responsibility. Like I become stronger so I can take more responsibility and serve and contribute on higher levels, you know. And so
Is
I'm
that
a warrior.
lost art?
Dude, man, it's like the art and the lost art. It's like the secret to like happy, awesome life, and it's like people are running from it.
I know that and my successes are not validated unless I am successful in the service of those who are surrounding me immediately.
Right.
Like I'm someone who I am a workaholic. I hustle. I'm like this, but it's not for me. I'm not keeping it. I'm I have to make sure that, you know, my band members will tell you, like, I'm an asshole, but I make sure that the paychecks come in.
Right.
And no matter what, my mom, the bills are paid.
Yeah.
You know, and that and anyone who's ever dated me, if you're with me,
You're
good.
taken care of. You're good.
Yeah.
I think like anything else, though, with ranks or whatever, like we've talked about before, but what does it mean to be a man? Well, whatever it means to you, but I hang around mainly alpha male warrior type, if you will. But that what I appreciate is someone that goes, dude, I've never been in a fight in my life. That's why I hang out with guys
they're
like
chill
you.
and they're
like,
cool
I'm
about
just here to like, you know, play the piano and do whatever I want to do. And they're fully secure in who they are.
Yeah.
And if something were to go down, they're not going to be the ones that go, you know what, let me run shit and make decisions. They go, hey, man,
I got your back.
You're
Like,
the
how
one
we
that
doing
makes
this?
those decisions. Tell me where you need me, right? So I feel like there's, you know, a hierarchy or whatever
that's
you
your
call
tribe,
it.
but it's also like
I think that's
it's
that
when,
ego.
I don't wanna
it's when
take-
somebody that has never experienced anything and just all of a sudden feels like,
I
you know
need to
what,
be the
now's my
man,
time. It's
yeah.
like, hey, man, nah.
But that's that ego thing I was talking about. So it's like you got a guy who's got nothing, done nothing, but he's like he loves like purple and
and
balloons, and
Call
he's
of
like,
Duty.
yo, I love my balloons, and he's like totally cool with it. It's like, yo, that's legit. Like I'm not gonna mess with you. You know what I mean? And now if he like loves balloons and he's like trying to hide it all the time, and then he's trying to act masculine around you, you're like, yo, this is.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't.
It's
matter.
inaccurate.
I mean,
it doesn't matter what he likes, but it's the
doesn't matter what
way
you like, and it's how, you
being like confident in
Dude,
yourself.
some
is what I'm saying.
of like, dude, you know, and to go back to like, you know, I think that society has done a great job of deconstructing homophobia as not being as homosexuals as not being masculine. Dude, I know
I know some dudes.
some
fuck you
hard
up.
gay dudes. They
Yeah.
will fuck.
You-
They'll beat
yeah.
up the whole room, and you're like,
yo, just be cool.
yo, chill,
Yeah,
Jake.
just be
Like,
cool,
yo,
bro.
I-
No,
yo,
it's
I don't
you're
know the
like,
last
yo,
time
no,
you got beat up
I
by a
didn't
guy with
mean-
heels on, but
Yo,
you better stop.
Right? I
Oh,
didn't mean
yeah.
to I didn't mean it that way. I meant like no matter what you like and no matter how you are, if you're comfortable with yourself, if you have a healthy enough ego to just be comfortable with yourself and you're grounded, I believe that's going to be the guy who's healthy, masculine.
I
with
think
his
that's
masculinity.
what
Now,
we
but you-
struggle
you-
as
you can
humans.
be-
Period. Is
Oh, yeah,
that being
and that's why it's a-
comfortable with me.
But it's also like you can be like you can
And you can
know
be
you
anything
can
in that
be a
spectrum.
nerd and
Yeah.
then turn into Mark Zuckerberg and then who
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? It's not to me, masculinity is not solely based on physical prowess. We
No.
are within the jungle. Genetically, we are predisposed to being a certain way.
Yeah.
We live in a society where everyone has their place, and it doesn't make you not a
Less than,
man
right.
because you don't have that. And so a lot of people psychologically they compensate for the physicality, and it's about doing it in a healthy way.
Right.
And when everyone is doing things to move society and their families and their immediate
healthy way.
surroundings in a forward progressive manner where people are okay and there's
I mean, even with
that's masculinity
even
to me.
within
That's
a-
what our job
and that's
is.
what I'm saying. I'm like, yo, know what you're good at, be good at it, get confident in yourself because you're good enough at it, and then serve your tribe and realize that the better you can provide for your tribe, that's honor for you. You know what I mean? Like being like, yo, my girl drive.
even within a squad, you got
Yeah.
a medic, a rifleman,
Yeah,
a gunner, an intel guy, a radio guy. Like, because if something happens, I mean, you're supposed to be trained on all fronts, but ultimately, hey, dude, I'm shot, and I know that you know this the best. Help me.
Yeah, that's
and
why
I,
we have
and I stand down.
specialists.
Yeah.
So before I really want to get into, we left off episode 15, and we didn't really have time to get into interracial. And I know that you are married to a white woman, so I guess it's a two-part question. I want to know about your experiences with racism in America personally, and your experiences with an interracial relationship.
Yo, so like I said, I got 5 sisters, right? So I like at a young age was like I got enough black girls in my life, right? So I spent most of my life just being like, yo, I
For
like.
anybody listening, by the way, Byron happens to be an African American.
And I actually have gotten that before. People be like, yo, I thought you were white until I saw you on YouTube. And I had one dude hit me up on YouTube, be like, yo, what did he said something like Byron. He was like, Byron talks like a surfer, but you look like you can get down if you need to. And I was like, all right, cool. Anyways, so growing up, I tended to be like, yo, like I like other stuff. So I went to all kinds of different racial, biracial, all kinds of situations.
Where did you grow up?
I was born in the Bahamas. I grew up in Washington, so in Washington State and the Bahamas. So I would go back and forth so I can swim for all y'all. Wow. So we're breaking stereotypes today, right?
Fucking A.
Right. So yeah, man, I grew up in the Bahamas and in Washington State, bouncing back and forth from those coastlines and stuff. So so I kind of grew up dealing with certain things. Like I've not been able to take chicks to the prom because I was black. Girls can't introduce me to their parents, type of things. You know what I mean? I've dealt with a number of different little stupid issues around it.
But
Whole families not accepting me.
That as time went on? I mean, that's painful, no?
So we get back into, I define myself and nothing outside of me defines me. I spent a lot of time with parents being taken away from me when I was little and just kind of out there figuring things out for myself, So
in the moment, you had to develop this mental toughness.
As a young man, I developed this mental toughness, and I've seen that it's made all the difference not letting external things define me, and then never letting the trauma change my name. So, I have found myself in the back of cop cars multiple times because I was just black in the wrong spot. I've not been able to rent houses in certain places or buy things in certain places because I was black. And I never let some trauma change my name and cause me to become bitter or cause me to give them a reason next time. I don't let them define me. I don't turn into, what it is they think I am. And I'm always like, nope, I'm Byron. And I use that energy to just work harder and be better and be so much better that they have nothing to say. Because I grew up, with my grandparents who were actually in the struggle telling me all the time, you're going to have to be twice as smart to get half as much credit. Whether it's true or not, that's an empowering belief. So I took that.
But that's so, I have that same that same thing, but it's not. It doesn't. To me, it transcends race. I think it's that mentality of not being a victim and assuming the responsibility of twice the amount of work as everyone else.
Yep.
Is the way that you succeed in a capitalist nation.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, whether it's true or not, that's just an empowering. That's something everybody should just take that. You know what I'm saying?
You met your wife 8 years ago?
Yeah.
And you've been married for how long?
We've been married for actually 10 years now. Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
And does she get any hate or anything through social media, through her family, anything? Do you feel uncomfortable?
No, her family's awesome. In the beginning, there was
How did you guys meet?
We actually just met at Hennessy's Tavern, man, in Dana Point.
Whoop,
yeah.
whoop.
And I just instantly, it was one of those weird, how'd you know you're going to be with Wilbur for the rest of your life? I just knew when we met, we just knew. And you're like, and they've been together for 50 years or something, right? Yeah. So it was that. I just met her and I was like, oh, this is my lady, I just do it. And so it was a little over a year after that, I was like, click, here we are.
And how does she get any?
I try to keep her off the radar as much as I can because of, the work I do and things like that. Mm-hmm. So you'll see my family sometimes in my stories, but that's about it, really. But, she's really we were just grounded in each other and stuff like that. So we don't never let that stuff change us or negatively impact it. Most things people do are just a reflection of the way they treat themselves.
Yeah.
That's.
So before we get out of here, I want to there's so many other things, but I think the main next point should be, I want your thoughts, I guess, on everything that's happened lately from Kyle Rittenhouse to how the officers responded with Jacob Blake to the 2 LASD officers that were shot in Compton.
In 30 seconds.
We get some time, but the Kyle Rittenhouse thing.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, as far as a 17-year-old kid being down there with an AR-15?
Yeah. So, I really want to advocate for inclusion and people being together and working together and covering each other and connecting. I've been to, we've seen war. We've seen what happens when people can't have conversations and it turns into violence. And then there's a moment afterwards where there's one guy laying on the floor and you're like, that's just another human who had different beliefs than me, who believed him strong enough to come fight me today and my dudes. And now here we are. We got to keep it moving. So with seeing him being willing to go down there, and stand up for, protecting those people. I'm a protector by nature. So I'm kind of like, heck yeah, man. Like, I wish more Americans would try to cover each other in that way. I find it extremely tragic that something like that has become something that, might even be a part of our society, that people should have to try to cover each other and protect each other.
I guess what I mean is, if you were there, do you think he would have even had to fire a shot?
Meaning,
like, I don't think he had there were older men there
Yeah.
that knew what they were doing.
Dude, I
why
haven't
did none
considered
of
that one
them?
yet.
Why did not like?
why'd
if
they
it
let
was
the
me,
17-year-old
I
kid
would
have
have
to
been.
do it? Yeah.
Like, here's the thing where I go like,
this
I'm
is
glad
why.
you're
Hold
here.
on, this is-
Let me finish. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
But go somewhere in the back. Like, don't be
Yeah.
right out front here.
He's a target because he's 17. The first person who targeted him
bottom
was a
feeding. Yeah.
pedophile.
Yeah.
Okay, and he grabbed his gun and was fired on. Okay, after trying to take his weapon from him, and after screaming the N-word in a gas station, then he fled the scene to go surrender to officers.
Right. Yeah.
And as he was fleeing the mob, they chased him down.
And tried to hit.
He should not have been out there because he was 17 years old.
Yeah.
He just
Well-
if you're 17 years old, but
Again,
there's an argument.
yeah.
If there wasn't for 17-year-olds with guns, we'd all be
We would all
British.
be
Yeah.
speaking-
Like,
right. Speaking some other stuff.
Yeah,
man.
No, again, man, my whole
But
take on this
what
thing
you're
is still,
saying is-
I don't know the right or the wrong.
But Antifa
it's
or
just,
BLM
fuck,
would
man.
not target any of us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're like,
Nah.
they're
But how
trained
fucking
to
thick are
size
you?
up
You know who I'm
the
not sizing up? Someone with an AR-15. I don't care if they're 11. Go to a third world country. There's kids with
You would
AKs that are
have
fucking 12 years
trash.
old.
Yeah,
you
take
know,
you
but-
out of the
but
car.
These
Yeah.
are not the best and brightest. These are not.
Yeah.
These are trained Marxists, not trained soldiers.
That's true.
Yeah.
And they have no
Instigators. They're
Yeah,
trained fucking instigators.
Yeah.
What they
So
are.
they're not. They're not. Again, these are the
Which
same
thank
people
God.
who are.
Thank God they're not tactically
Yeah.
proficient and that good at deviance.
And now, what do you think about?
But yeah,
I
there
don't
should have been some grown men that got his back. Like,
Yeah,
why is
I
this
mean,
kid?
these guys had like, they had
Mm-hmm.
body armor, they
Yeah.
had all the stuff. They knew what was happening, and this kid just kind of was. I mean, granted, he had his medical
cut his
bag and
teeth.
stuff like that, but
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I just wish that I saw some better leadership amongst, because I'm all for protection and doing that stuff, but I feel like if you're there, I'm gonna listen. You have a little bit of an edge on me. I respect that,
Yeah,
right?
it's my world.
Now. And if there's someone else that goes, hey Shane, what do I do? I go, if I know, I will tell them. If not, I go, let me ask Byron. Like,
Right.
I don't know. I guess we just know chain of command or who has the answers to what is best to do next.
Yeah.
And I just feel like they didn't have that there. And I understand because it's just civilians arming themselves. But I feel like if you have an AR-15 in your hand, have a fucking plan, man. Be with people that have a plan, because that's not a fucking BB gun.
Nope.
You know?
Sure. But you shouldn't even have to be there. And then this
I know.
goes back to everyone's demanding to defund the police, and they want to have a citizenry police. And then they get what they want, and their goons get shot,
Yeah.
and they scream for justice. And then they try to say the guy was a white supremacist.
Yeah,
he's
Mexican or
Hispanic.
something.
Yeah.
And a citizen
Caucasian Latino. I'm like,
Right.
you can't just add white to things.
Yeah,
You put it to
you guys got like
yo.
it's not a coloring book.
I know.
How was the situation avoidable in Compton?
With the
Besides
two
sitting in a
officers.
parked
Avoidable.
cruiser and well, yeah. I mean, how does that not happen?
How does that not happen?
I mean,
I would
because-
say that there's a great push within the media and that narrative that we're kind of touching on a little bit, that's weaponizing people that are dejected or unhappy with society and unhappy with their lives. That's the first thing I think is like how you start to avoid like this direction we're going.
And do you think
in
that was
society.
orchestrated because of them being already at the hospital waiting to block the entrance? Does that seem a little odd?
I mean, I don't know all the dynamics around that. I do know that when you're in that job, man, and you lace up your shoes every day, you're writing a blank check, and you gotta be on top of your game. But then at the same time, I know the feeling of being in a room where anybody could shoot you or blow up. You know that feeling too, and it's like, you just got to be using those shortcuts, and you got to be making sure you're not placing yourself in a place that's going to be vulnerable, you know, where your back's
But does that
exposed
mean
and-
refusing to serve these communities?
You know, and this is, man, we're getting into this. The good
That's
stuff.
happening in Minneapolis
Yeah.
now.
I
You see
honestly, bro.
that now Minneapolis is like, we need the police back.
No,
And we're
I
like,
would.
What did you think would
We're
happen?
yeah,
Like-
honestly, I do support that, because when this was kicking off and they were like, "Oh, the police are bad," I was like, you know what? We're gonna give you 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna give you like a couple days of just no police, since you guys can handle it. It's like when a you know, like a girlfriend's being bad or something. It's like, you know what? I'm just gonna take a break, and you back off, and then they come to you. You make the person come to you. It's like, you know what? Do it without me. I
mean,
think it's relevant, especially when everyone's being so ridiculous.
And people, to just say that all cops are bad, dude, I've had more run-ins with law enforcement than I care to fucking remember.
Yeah.
A lot of them sucked. A lot of them didn't. You know what I mean? So it's like, I've had...
That's like saying all black people are bad.
But I've had run-ins. I've had run-ins.
All white people are racist.
I've gone to airlines, and there's been shitty people at the airline and
Yeah.
awesome people at the airline.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what it is, but this is such an easy thing to just go, nope, that's it. They're all bad. Defund them.
Well,
Yeah.
human
Okay.
beings have.
It's like
you
all
know,
black people are gangsters.
Yeah.
Well, human beings have good and
Most of
bad
it.
days, but the thing that's incredible is like how many. If you take the police killed this many people, right?
Yeah.
Yo, doctors kill
Yo.
1,000
Finally,
times.
yo, I'd be saying,
doctors.
It's like-
fucking doctors kill people.
it's like the top
every
5
day,
leading
yeah.
cause of death in
misdiagnosis.
in
Maybe leave a pair of forceps
what?
inside.
in
you.
America. Yeah.
And
It's
I'm like, okay, well, like,
no one's talking. Where's the outrage? Where's the outrage?
well, because we can't. Well, they're protected because they're fucking. We can't. The medical community.
I mean, there's a lot of money in it.
Yeah, there's no. So it's an interesting thing, and I don't know. Like I wonder what it would be like. There's a movie called A Day Without a Mexican. Did you ever see that?
No.
Oh, so it
sounds
basically was
awesome.
like
I
what
don't know how
what would happen
California
in
would survive.
That's the whole
That's
premise.
the
It's
whole-
like there's
yeah.
no Mexicans, and people are like, well, like nothing can work.
Nothing's working.
They should just
That's
have
awesome.
fucking like 2 weeks without police.
It'd be the
just
purge.
no police.
Yeah.
Nothing. Let everyone
Figure it out.
You do you.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
That'd be
Yeah.
a nightmare.
That's what I would
Yeah.
do, because they'd be begging for you to come back. And then these citizen police situations, I'm like, what do you think you're doing? You know, you're just trying to do policing, but you don't have the systems in place that come from decades and decades of trying to
100
perfect this
years,
process.
yeah.
Who do you think you are? Like, I got a small boutique private security company trying to make sure that my values and my customer service and all my stuff gets out to a team, to a smaller team. This is the struggle of leadership. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you think you're just going to just come in and do this? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It's human nature is a tough thing to try to manage.
Well, we got to get the fuck out of Dodge. We could go on for hours.
Indeed.
This is good.
Thank you so much for coming in, Byron.
It's an
What
honor.
a pleasure.
Finding meaning.
Yeah, if you guys
After the military.
haven't, I apologize that we didn't get a chance to get into this book, but thank you for this copy. Go check it out. Finding Meaning After the Military by Byron Rogers. Where can the people find you?
Primarily at my main online property is ByronRogersMotivation.com. And from there, you can go to the social media. You know, I have an online executive protection school, and I have all of the online protection assets to teach civilians how to really protect themselves, their families, and what they
And
want.
I'll put all those links in
Also
the YouTube.
making a cameo in the new Five Finger Death Punch music video.
Oh,
What's up?
shit.
Boom! No, it's an honor to hang with those dudes, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, as always, you can find. I'm gonna from now on. All the links will be in the YouTube video. You can find Tommy on Instagram at Tommy Vext. You can find me at Shane.Vitko. You can find us on Instagram at Deviant Gentleman. All listening platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever the fuck else you use is Deviant Gentleman Podcast, and you can find us on YouTube, Deviant Gentleman Podcast. You have to type it all in due to the fact of possibly being shadow banned. Thanks again, Byron. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you
real.
next time.
Boom.
He's like Shrek without a donkey. Dicks out from Ohio to Zimbabwe. Dicks out for Harambe.